I've missed the order it's going to be. Because the last time I had it in crayon.
I lost mine too.
All right, we are live.
It's at the house, but it's in crayon. So it's like postcarded from the table.
All right, well, my name is Alexis, like I said previously. I'm starting this youth group. I'm a part of the youth group. I'm a senior myself. I started it because, as I noticed, a lot of people my age, around my age, a little older, have some maybe identity issues. My goal is to encourage everybody on their personal development skills, things like that. So that's why we started this 24-week kind of personal development classes. I wanted to quickly go over a few things before we start. Let me make sure. Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure if you've seen the flyer. You have one in your hand. But as you can see, this is going to be every day on Tuesday from 5 to 6, reoccurring. If it's not going to happen one day, you will be notified, but most likely it'll happen. We have weeks 1 and week 2, so that's going to be your current week and then your following week for the topic. I think that's important just so if postpartum doesn't relate to you, maybe you don't want to tune in that day. You know, it's something you can look at each week. It might not be on the Hope Clinic website. I don't think it'll be updated there, but it will be on all of our platforms. Next, I want to go through our 24-week syllabus. I'm just going to mainly focus on the first 8 weeks because we're going to have 3 quarters. We're going to have the fall series, the winter series, and the spring series. So the first 8 weeks, we're going to be focusing on self-worth for weeks 1 through 4. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today is self-worth. I think self-worth is a foundational life skill. Without self-worth, you're not going to get far with anything else, really. So I think it's a good thing to focus on. That's why it's going to be a duration of 4 weeks. We're going to go moving on to the next 2 weeks, which will be led more by Cassidy. And that's going to be on boundaries. We have that as 2 weeks because it's another important foundational skill I think would benefit a lot of people. And then we have our last 2 weeks, 7 and 8. Week 7 is going to be values, also going to be talked about by Cassidy. Values are something we kind of want to get out of the way too, as it kind of goes with boundaries. Your values is kind of how you shape your boundaries, so we kind of put 2 and 2 together. And then respect, I'll be doing respect. We're going to kind of go over what respect is, what it isn't in relationships and all of that. And then in our winter series, we are going to have postpartum depression. That's what we're going to be starting with. That's going to be 2 weeks just because it's more extensive, very extensive, goes into the postpartum and in the depression, the coping and how you're actually going to move on from that. And then we're going to go with anxiety for week 11. And then we'll have weeks 12 as anger management, week 13, conflict resolution. Those kind of go hand in hand. As well as parental conflict, that also goes hand in hand. We have healthy relationships and trusted relationships for 15 and 16. And then 17, this one's kind of one of those things that if you see it on our advertisement and you maybe don't feel comfortable to come in, even though it is really recommended to come in. But if you didn't want to come in for the STD talk, you could watch it on our live. So that was just an example of that. And then we have 18, effective decision making, 19, time management, social media influence, alienation, isolation, sudden withdrawal, and drugs and fentanyl awareness is going to be our last one for that. That is our syllabus. I believe we will have our syllabus posted. So if you wanted to go and look at what the 8 weeks consist of, you can. But I think that is all. Now getting into our lesson. So like I said, we're going to start with self-worth. So the first part of self-worth is understanding what it is. So I'm going to give you kind of like an example. If I gave everybody $20 bill, but before I gave you a $20 bill, I crumbled it up, stomped on it, it was all dirty, could you still take that $20 bill and go buy something with it? Yeah, even though it's dirty, you can still go buy something with it. And what I mean by that is that $20 bill still has value. Even though it's dirty, even though it was dragged through the mud, even though it was found on the street, it still has value. You can still use it. You can still buy things with it. That's kind of what I mean. That's kind of why I set that up. It's just meaning that our self-worth is always there. It's whether we want to acknowledge it or not.
I don't think this is live right now.
Is it not?
Is it showing up live right there?
We did switch the account, so you may be on the wrong account.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think he printed out the new. We have a link for it. I don't think he printed it out yet.
Is this the right link?
Yeah, that's the right link. Yeah. So he did print it out. Okay. Yes, and that's just kind of going into the definition of self-worth. So here at the Hope Clinic, we really like to preach on being Christian. So that's why I think, in my way, self-worth is the belief that you are valuable simply because God made you that way, just because you are who you are, because God made you. You're his child, and acknowledging that worth, that you're God's child, is important to me. And then the big question is, why does this even matter? Why does self-worth matter at all? It's just a thing. But it does affect a lot of aspects in your life. One being your relationships. If you have a low self-worth, you don't think of yourself very well. The boundaries with people, you're going to have very broken boundaries with people. Maybe you have boundaries set up, but you're not following through with them. An example I have is when I wasn't in the right space, I felt like the approval of others was the thing I needed, was the thing that made me worthy. And so I would let people do what they want. I would take them on wherever they wanted in my car, waste all my gas, didn't have to pay for anything. And that's just simply because I wanted the approval of that person. And that's where the low boundaries comes in. That's what I mean by it really does affect relationships in that aspect. It also affects your choices of partners and friends. If you think of yourself low, you're going to have friends that reflect that. So what I mean by that is if you think that you are worth very little, you will have people who also think that of themselves, and you'll kind of come together. And it's not a good tornado of things you should come together, but it does affect the people you choose to be friends with, romantic partners, things like that. And then it affects your level of dependence on them as well, how much you're wanting to be around them, how much their actions affect your emotions. And then it also affects effectively making decisions. And that goes into like risk-taking and not risk-taking. And what I mean by that is when you think of yourself lowly or you have a low self-worth, you're not going to want to put yourself out there. You don't think you're worth enough to put yourself out there. So instead of taking that risk and doing something that's a little scary, but you know it's going to help your growth exponentially, you choose not to because you feel that's what you're worth. And then another thing it can affect decision-making is your long-term and short-term thinking. And the difference in that is your long-term thinking is you're thinking about your future when you're making decisions. Your short-term thinking is what's going to reflect the low worth, the low self-esteem. Because your short-term thinking, you could For example, an alcoholic, they could drink and drink and drink, and that would be their short-term thinking because they don't care about their future. They don't care about what's going to happen next. They're worried about what they're doing right now and not how it's going to affect them later. That's a reflection of your low self-worth. And then it can also affect your resilience. And an example of that would be when I was a dancer for 3 years of my life. I started when I was maybe like 14. In that time, I really, I would say I was a kid who liked attention. I didn't really get it much at home, so I was just, I wasn't the annoying attention kid, but I would say I took it seriously to where if I didn't get that recognition for the day, or if I got a correction in dance class that day, I took it really personally. It ruined my whole day. I didn't even want to dance anymore. I didn't think I was good at it. And that's what I mean by it reflects or affects your resilience. It's harder to recover from things like that. And that's where I also go to mental and emotional recovery. It can affect you deeply. And what I mean by that is it can take sometimes months to get over something that happened that you look back and you're like, it should not have taken me months to get over that. And sometimes that's just how life hits you. But really, that's why I wanted to focus on self-worth, because life can hit you in those ways, and it can hit you and you're knocked down for months. And that's something that we need to learn to cope with better, I think, even with myself included. And that's where I'm going to give another example of value. If you seen a baby, like these two babies here, they're perfect. They're worth, if you look at them, they're just worthy already. These babies are worthy already just because they're babies. They don't do anything. They honestly make messes. Babies make messes. They poop in their pants. Some like to play with poop. Some like, but they're worthy, and but they don't have achievements. They don't have achievements. They don't go out and do anything to create worth. It's just they're already worthy just because they're here. So when we make mistakes, or something happens in our life that's not a good reflection of us, that doesn't mean that we're not worth any less. We are worth what we are worth because we were created with it. And we have to acknowledge that we are worth just as much as everybody else. And another example I like to use is like a teacher. If you were a teacher in a classroom, you're a brand new teacher, you have all these kids, you're not going to pick which kids you're not going to give a pencil to. You're going to give a pencil to each and every kid. And that's what I mean. Each kid's worthy. Every person is worthy, whether you're a kid or not. Whether you didn't go to work yesterday or not, you're still worthy. And a lot of misconceptions of feeling worthy is having money or not having money, or having good grades or having bad grades, or what level of popularity you are on, which I don't believe in popularity anyway, but I do have a struggle with approval too with other people. Even though I don't believe in popularity, I do struggle with approval from people. Not so much anymore, but a lot of the times I did base my self-worth on what I looked like that day, or who talked to me that day, or what grade I got that day. Those things really impacted some of the way I thought about myself. When looking back at that now, it has little to no effect. It really doesn't. Because the reflection of myself is greater than an A on a paper, an F on a paper, clothes I wore in 8th grade. My worth is more than that. It always was. It took a while for me to acknowledge that. And it does for some people too. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it more. So to reflect all this, to tie it off, I'm going to ask all of you a question. And that is, what do you currently tie your self-worth to? You can think of anything.
My money.
Money.
My son.
Certainly my money. My ability to pay stuff.
That's a real one. Do you have any?
Probably my achievements and my job.
Yeah, that's a big one. It really is. Especially because I know, like, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And so even this job, like, I do have friends now, but I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. So, like, having this job, it really boosted my confidence. And so I guess I do get that a lot. Like, if you don't do well that day, if I feel like, so I come here and I tutor as well. And so if I didn't tutor them, or I felt like they didn't learn much that day, I do feel affected by that at the end of the day. So I do get that.
That's how these horses.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Horses are dramatic though.
They are.
Yeah,
Giant toddlers.
they're all dramatic.
But like with we have some unhandled Mustangs, and just like, so they aren't like a normal horse. They actually came out west, and so when they allow you to like touch them, you're like, oh, I was worthy of be able to touch you. I was worthy to be able to do this, because that's them taking a step and
Right.
trusting and
Especially
like
when it's
that.
an animal,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
they do more of the feeling than the
Mhm. Yeah.
actual thinking. So
Yeah, since they can't talk like normal people.
Mhm. Right. Okay, well, I have 3 more discussion questions I want to go through, and after that, we are done for the day. But the first one I want to go over is, what's the difference between self-worth and self-esteem? Does anybody know or have an idea or a guess they want to add in?
I look at esteem like motivation.
Mhm.
Could be wrong, but
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. You just talked about self-worth. So.
Yeah, I didn't really put in. Usually, I add the difference between self-worth and self-esteem, but the difference is how I like to see it is self-worth is something that's always there, right? It's if you acknowledge it or not. It's always there. And then self-esteem is how you perceive yourself. So everyone's worthy, but it doesn't mean that I feel worthy. And that's where the self-esteem, that's where that's different. That's why we use the word self-esteem. And that's why I want people to understand what self-worth is because it's always there. It's not about how you feel about yourself. Self-worth is always there. So whether you feel like crap or no matter what, you always have a worth. And that's the difference of that. And then going on to the second question is, why do so many people base their worth on achievements or appearance? Why do you think so?
I
And
think it's based off society nowadays. Society is like so into like how you look, where you fall on like the chain of command pretty much. Are you like the high class? Are you the low class? Are you middle class? I think it's really just society driving that.
Do you feel like as you've gotten older, you've seen it as that, and maybe as kids, like it was a little different?
Yeah. And now that I'm a lot older, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's always been there, but as kids, like we weren't really.
Yeah, we didn't really know any better.
Yeah.
We kind of just followed along.
Yeah.
It's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Loyalty, cousins.
Yeah.
The hierarchy.
Yeah.
There's a hierarchy everywhere you go. It's
Yeah.
just,
But also, I think, especially in our generation, just social media.
yeah, social media is a big one. My generation would probably, yeah. And like the Gen Z millennials, the one who really grew up with that technology. And I think it has a big, big effect. And it's honestly not a good one. Not at all. It creates such a false narrative and such a false reality for everybody, especially young kids. And then our last question is, share one thing that makes you feel valuable that has nothing to do with achievements. And I would say my family, because they may have their flaws, but I still feel like unconditionally loved by my family. So, any of you, one thing that makes you feel valuable that has nothing to do with achievements?
I'm smart.
Your brain?
Yeah. People call me for everything. So.
You're good. Do you have any?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, yeah, you're fine.
I think probably honestly just being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does. It has its moments. Mm-hmm. Well, all right, guys. That wraps up our today's lesson. I wanted to end on, if you had any personal questions, or you come in here one day and you're like, man, like I'm really not feeling good about myself. I need to talk to somebody. We like to keep things private for your privacy, our privacy. So you can message Ken. Maybe we should put this on something. Or should we put this on somewhere? So like the website, maybe like the. Okay. This email will be posted either on the YouTube channel. It'll be posted somewhere that you can see. So if anyone does need to, you can email, or even in person, you can say, hey, I have a concern. We can definitely pull you aside at the end of class and have that talk. For my online listeners, our email is kchristener@yahoo.com for any personal concerns or questions. And that'll be all for today. Thank you for joining.
Now, does that record?